You're on.
Okay, guys, I'm going to show you the lazy gardener's way to propagate some roses. And I just recently moved, and I wanted to bring a lot of my roses I had planted with me. So I just went around snipping and rooting so I could bring all these roses with me. And the first thing I did is I went around and got my roses that would lean down on the ground, and I kept them on the bush. I did not take them off the bush. So pretend this is growing in the ground. And what I did was I took a pair of scissors with me. I went to where the bush was closest to the ground. I just scraped back and forth in a spot that would touch the ground, cut off some of the little leaves, and made sure it was a green rose stem. And then I took it and I put it down on the ground, and I dug a little bit of the dirt up around it, and then I put dirt on top of it. I put dirt under the dirt that was underneath it, and then I just put a brick on top of it, because the brick actually made the rose stem stay there. And I just left it there, and I did that for about a month or two before I knew that I was going to be moving. And then I just came back. I let nature take itself. You know, if I needed to water the rose, I watered it, but not because of where I wanted the roots to grow, just because the whole plant needed it. And then when it was time to move, I pulled it back up, clipped the rose. I had my roots on it, put it in a pot with dirt in it, took it to my new house, and when I got ready to plant at my new house, voila, now I have roses all over my yard that I brought from my old house. Okay, that's just roses growing in your yard that cascade. Okay, the next thing, as a lazy gardener, when I'm cutting my roses back, or whenever I think they just need a clipping, I go out and remember, you're not supposed to take roses that are patented, but I don't think there's a patented rose in my whole yard. So just make sure that you get your roses and you're going to cut the stems off. And these are already pre-cut because obviously I don't have a garden in this room. But I use my clippers. I will cut them right below, at an angle, right below the rose note, and right below the leaf cutting. You can do it, just cut it. Make sure that you leave enough stem to put your rooting powder on. I take my a pot. You know, different people use different things. I have a friend, she just digs dirt out of the ground, puts dirt in there. She doesn't care what she uses. I use potting soil because that's easier to me than shoveling. Put it in a pot. Then I get a bottom, and I buy these huge 2-gallon Ziploc baggies, and I put me a bottom in the bottom of the baggie to make me a little greenhouse. And then I put my pot in here. Now I'm going to have me a little greenhouse in a minute. I take my rose stem, and I just like to leave a top on mine. Some people cut theirs completely off. They do not leave leaves on it at all, but I like to. And that's, you know, do it like you want to. Naked or with dressed, it doesn't matter. what also you want to do is get a pair of scissors or get your cutting scissors, however you want to do it, and just skin a little bit of your rose up and down so that when you put your rooting powder on it, it will go on it, and that's where your roots are going to grow when you put on your when you put it down in here. So I've already done that to all these roses. I cut all the bottom leaves off. These just happen to be tall roses. You don't always have these tall stems like this, but these just happen to be. So some people put all their little rooting powder in something and they never touch all the other things with it because they don't want to get germs. But remember, I'm a lazy gardener. So I just go in, use my little powder, rooting powder right here, make sure I get it all around it, and if the soil is loose, I just stick it down in there. If the soil that I'm using to root them in is very compact, then I would get a pencil, or usually it's a stick wherever I'm standing in the garden, and just stick it down in there to make a hole. But I'm going to, remember I've already scraped this, and I'm going to just get this on all over the stem and have it so that I can just stick it down. How many do you put in here? 6, 7, 8, it doesn't matter. 2, whatever you want. But remember, if you only put 2 in there, you may not get a rose stem that has roots on it, because there's probably going to be 2 that always are going to die and not make it. So, you know, just put as many in there as you want to. And it doesn't have to be a pot this big. It's just what I had. And some people like to cut milk jugs and look at theirs because they can tell if the roots are really growing. Well, I just leave mine in here for a month, 2 months, just, you know, just get it growing. You can tell if your rose is growing or if it's not growing. I mean, if it dies and it turns brown, obviously it's not rooting. But if it's staying green and then finally one day after about 2 months it's putting out little rose leaves, then it's doing a really good job. But now remember, your rose stem is still active and it will put out little leaves as it's growing, but that doesn't mean it has roots down there. So don't get too excited and check it a week later, because it won't have roots on it then. So now that I've got all of my stems covered with root powder that I just stuck in this pot, that's all, I'm going to water this plant. Now remember, I have it in my little miniature greenhouse, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to water this all real good and everything, and I'm going to actually let it soak up the water for a day at the house. And then I'm not going to have it saturated, I just want it to be soaked up. Then I'm going to, the next day, I'm going to make sure I have it all saturated and everything. I'm going to bring my little miniature greenhouse over the top, and I'm going to close my little greenhouse. And it doesn't have to be a zipper kind, but remember, I'm the lazy gardener. So this closed up. Now, where do you put this little rose that you're trying to propagate? I put mine in the shade. I put it in a spot outside that's going to be hot, because you want them to be hot, but you don't want direct sunshine on them. And then the next day when you come back, you're going to have little sprinkles of water all in here. They will stay in there. You know, I may move mine around. Maybe I don't like it where it is, so I'll move it to another place. But I leave it alone. I don't want to have to mess with this plant every day. I just want it to root and let it go. So I'll come back and check on it if I'm walking by that way. If not, it doesn't get checked on. And about a month later, I'll look at it and say, this one over here looks like it's trying to die on me. And I may open it up, go in and cut the dead part back to see if the other part's going to grow. And or I may say, oh, this might need a little bit more water. But usually that is not the case. Make sure you use the green stems and not the brown stems. And down here, it says, they say, well, make sure that you only do this in June, July, August, or September. But hey, we live in Texas and it's hot here, and you can do this all year long. It doesn't really matter. It may take a little bit longer in the winter months if we have any, but it's still going to root and propagate. I hope y'all have fun moving your roses to where you want them. And actually, I went and took these from my neighbor's because I wanted some of his, but he did give me permission. So you have a great day and get rooting.